Yeah, he was 62.
Which is ancient.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not that bad, but it's still... He was not in great...
Yeah, he wasn't
condition.
a spry young man.
No, he wasn't.
Wasn't out there doing parkour or something.
No, not... Yeah. And that was odd. There were no signs of this in his body. His hands should have had, like, the scaffolding was kind of rusty. It should have had... So his hands should have had some abrasions and some rust on and stuff.
And maybe shoes. Did he have his shoes on?
Yeah, he was wearing his shoes. Yeah.
And they didn't have any... Although I guess the shoes, it doesn't bother me as much since they would have been submerged in water, so that stuff could have washed away. And it could have, if the water was high enough for his hands, it could have washed it off the hands.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.
But that's quite, I mean...
But actually, we'll be talking about that more a little later on.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's quite a commitment to killing yourself in that very spot, in that very way.
It seems like there would be easier ways to do it.
Even hanging off of a bridge in London, it seems like there'd be a lot better places to do it than that.
It really does. Yeah.
Sorry.
A lot. No, you're right.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah. So let's go back in time a week. He left Italy just the week before. He'd been sentenced to 4 years in stir for violating currency laws. And actually, the reason for him put him on trial for was patently unfair because he had done some not currency manipulation, but some currency transactions, some foreign currency transactions back in 1971. And the transactions were perfectly legal. But in 1976, the Italian parliament passed a retroactive law making it illegal. In 1981, he was arrested for breaking a law that didn't even exist in 1971.
That's hard.
It's BS.
That's hinky.
Yeah, it is. And so his case was under appeal. He was out on bail. Of course, at this time, it hadn't completely come out when he left the country that Banco Ambrosiano was in as serious trouble as it was and had so many missing funds and bad debts. But he was aware of it, of course.
Of course.
So that's another good reason to skip the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he decided to skip town, and the day he left, his assistant saw him filling a black attaché case with documents from his office safe. And that same assistant died on the day that the bank was taken over by the Bank of Italy.
Yeah, she threw herself out a window, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. Or was pushed.
Well, I thought she left a note.
Yeah, she did leave a note. Yeah,
that was a little bit scathing.
About Calvi, yes. Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I had that part right.
Yeah, written in red ink. I don't know if that signified anything or not. So when he left Italy, he had the aid of a guy named Flavio Carboni, who's a Sardinian businessman who apparently was very well connected. So Calvi flew to Venice from Milan, then traveled by car to Trieste, Italy, which is over by the border with Yugoslavia. He was then smuggled into Yugoslavia by a boat, and then traveled by car all the way up to Austria. And then from Austria, he flew to London on a private jet. So it was a pretty elaborate thing that lasted for several days and a lot of different modes of transport.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I never saw this anywhere, and maybe nobody knows. Do we know what his intended final destination was? I mean, he couldn't have just intended to keep moving every couple of days forever. He had to have somewhere he was going.
One would assume someplace without an extradition deal with Italy.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah,
right.
that would make the most sense.
Which I imagine is nowhere in Europe.
Yeah,
not.
Yeah, I think the only people that maybe would have known would be Flavio Carboni, who's the guy who basically made all the arrangements, and also Carboni also hired a cigarette smuggler named Silvano Vittor to be Calvi's bodyguard. So Vittor might have also known what the ultimate destination was. Well, but these guys aren't talking. They're still alive, but they're not talking.
I guess it could have been, if you have a fake passport, you essentially have a new identity. If you can get to a place that's kind of bigger, like London, it's not the worst place to try and disappear, although it is the most monitored place. But
yeah, it kind of is.
But there's a lot of people there. So,
But this was in 81.
Yeah, it was 82.
82.
Yeah.
Wasn't nearly as monitored in 82.
True, they didn't have cameras up on every corner.
And London was kind of a dirty little town at that time.
Yeah, true.
Not the financial hub that it is today.
Yeah, in London, Calvi and Vittor checked into a residential hotel called the Chelsea Cloisters. Of course, I looked at it on the street view. And meanwhile, Carboni checked into, I believe, the Sheraton or the Hilton, some much more luxurious hotel. And I forgot to mention, too, that at the beginning of this little adventure, Calvi had transferred a large amount of money into Carboni's Swiss account to cover his expenses. because there was a lot involved. You know, you had to pay people to smuggle him, pay people to drive him, and bribe officials.
It's not a cheap affair.
Hire a private jet. Yeah, so yeah, I think the amount was around 11 million.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa,
Yeah, decent amount of money. Yeah,
That's a lot of money even today.
Oh yeah, they were throwing
That's
around.
back when being a millionaire meant something
I
too.
know,
So,
I know. If I was a
wow.
millionaire tomorrow, I still wouldn't quit my day job.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So they were in London for just not very long at all, really. But on June 17th, about 5 p.m., Carboni phoned Calvi and told him that he'd found a platform to stay in and that he should pack his bags. Strangely, Carboni went by the hotel later and met Bitter at the front desk, but didn't go up to see Calvi at that time. I don't know why. Next that Calvi was seen was about 10 p.m. when a resident of the hotel saw him leaving by the back door. So did I say 10 p.m.? Yeah, 10 p.m. With, quote, 2 Italian men, but he didn't identify them.
What I can't understand is why, if you're the bodyguard, you're not staying in the same place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really hard to protect somebody from...
Oh, well, no, the bodyguard was staying at the same place.
Okay.
Carboni was staying at a different hotel.
Oh, okay,
Flavio,
sorry.
yeah.
I totally got the two mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Flavio,
Easy to do, yeah.
Yeah, this is a confusing little mystery.
Well, yeah.
It seems likely that the two men were Carboni and Bitter, but we're not sure, can't be totally sure. Bitter later told the police that he had left the hotel at 7 p.m. to meet Carboni, and then he returned at 8 or 1 a.m., and Calvi was gone. That's what he told the police. I'm not sure he should be believed, but it may be true.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. So at this point, let me digress a little bit. Of course, we know what happened after that. He died.
Somewhere.
At some point.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to talk a little bit about how he kind of got involved with all this high-level financial stuff.
How he became God's banker.
He became God's banker, and then God knows how many things he was involved in, but he apparently got involved with some kind of dangerous people. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about how he got involved in the Vatican's finances, just real fast like here. And I'm sure you all know this already, but in the 19th century, the Vatican's properties were all confiscated by the government of Italy. Yeah, you knew that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and this left the church with very little in the way of income. But they did get some compensation from Benito Mussolini in 1929. He gave them some government bonds and a bunch of cash.
Is that the Mussolini?
The very one.
Got it. That we all know and love from World War II?
Yeah, the very one. The Pope at the time was Pius XII, and so he started investing some of those funds. What they did is that they took note of the fact that their agreement now with the state of Italy made them basically a sovereign state. So to take advantage of that, they hired a banker named Bernardino Novara, who was supposed to invest their money and basically use it to do a bunch of arbitrage operations to make money. You know what arbitrage is when you trade. It's like trading gold and silver and stuff, but you're trading money instead. So like say right now, the Canadian dollar is weak. So if I buy up a bunch of Canadian money and then set out wait for the Canadian dollar to get stronger, then I sell my Canadian dollars again. I've just netted myself a profit. And
okay.
I'm sure we have some financial experts out there.
Well, I know what you're talking about, but I hadn't been able to connect that term. I don't think I've ever heard it used before. So he's trading money.
Yeah. World War II, the Vatican, of course, was surrounded by hostile fascists on all sides. Not to mention there's all kinds of stuff going on, and they're worried about the safety of their money. So Pius XII ordered the creation of a private bank within the Vatican, and this was called the Institute for Religious Works. And
the IRW.
Yeah. In Italian, it's IOR.
Oh.
It's spelled, but IRW in English.
Got it. So we'll call it what it is in Italian then.
Yeah, the IOR. Yeah. A priest named Giovanni Montini was put in charge of it, of the bank that is, and he oversaw its operations until 1963 when he became Pope Paul VI. So yeah, the Vatican's banker became the Pope.
Was he the Pope that only lasted 33 days?
No, that was John Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, John Paul.
I have a hard time keeping the Pope straight for some reason.
Well, and John Paul.
John Paul. Yeah.
Ringo.
Yeah.
No.
And that's
hasn't been one of those yet.
Yeah, actually.
Yet.
Yeah. Actually, the death of John Paul is subject. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about that.
It'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
We should do that sometime.
Yeah, we should do that. No, we don't want to do too many Vatican stories, though.
Not too many in a row. Anyway.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of them.
We got plenty of time to get to them.
Yeah. So the Vatican Bank was doing all right, but then a new Italian law was passed that required foreign investors to pay a 30% tax on dividends.
Ooh, that's a hefty tax.
Yeah. So the bank decided it would be a good idea to transfer most of its investments to overseas companies.
I mean, the Vatican's its own country, isn't it? So
yeah, but they were considered. But if you have
part of Italy.
But if you have investments that are paying dividends and the companies aren't located actually like in the Vatican, yeah,
which none of them are.
Oh yeah.
So I'm guessing they were rather heavily investing in Italian businesses.
I'm not sure exactly what kind of things. It wasn't strictly Italian, no.
But I'm just thinking that must have been what forced them to decide to shift. Is wait, this is coming through, and we have a lot of money in the country that we're getting returns on.
Yeah, and that we're gonna so we're gonna
So they
lose
moved
money.
it to Panama and where? Sorry.
Oh, miscellaneous places. Panama, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg.
All those places.
I heard, Nicaragua, Peru, all kinds of places, yeah. So what they needed was a bank that could set up anonymous accounts in offshore companies for them and then transfer their assets for them. And they hired a small private bank called Banca Privata Finanziata, I think. Yeah, close enough. It was run by a guy named Michele Sindona, and who, by the way, knew Roberto Calvi, God's banker. And he had actually mentored Calvi in the art of creating offshore companies. And the relationship between Sindona and the Vatican Bank went well for a while, but eventually he had a banking empire that was in, I think it was Italy and Switzerland. He had a lot of banks.
Correct.
He had a lot of banks, and but eventually he came under criminal investigation for a number of different matters, and so the Vatican decided that he was a bit of a liability.
That's fair.
And they also didn't, if the police investigators were snooping around the bank's records, they didn't really want to have their private dealings known.
Also
fair. Another reason to ditch this guy. And so they went looking for a replacement. Paul Marcinkus, who's kind of a player in this, he was a priest from America, and he was put in charge of finding that replacement, who turned out to be the Banco Ambrosiano in Milan. It already had connections. It had been founded by priests, and some of the previous chairmen had known some of the previous popes and such things. So
they were closely knit bunch.
Yeah, they were already.
It was a natural pairing.
They were, yeah, and also the Vatican already owned some of its stock.
Oh.
Yeah. Chairman at the time was Carlo Canisi, and the general manager was Roberto Calvi. A secret arrangement was made for the Vatican to buy more stock in the bank so that they could have actually a controlling interest in the stock.
Oh, in the bank.
In the bank, yeah.
And then once they had controlling stock, they could put whoever they wanted in charge, I'm guessing.
Yeah, or at least have some say over the bank's operations.
But that would make sense, especially if you're going to invest heavily.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really
suspicious.
I'm really kind of actually really glossing over a lot of stuff. It gets a lot more complicated than this. The stuff that these guys were doing.
Well, I know one of the things that they were doing that I found fascinating and so despicable, and I don't remember exactly who it was, because again, there is so many players, was the false deposits. Did either of you guys read about those? Where they were reporting false deposits into accounts, and so that they would get the funds from that bank. They'd say, oh, so-and-so at this was depositing money, now we've got more. And it was this weird shuffle of non-existent cash that then showed up on the books, but they never actually had that cash to begin with.
Yeah.
So then they had more money to spend. It's almost like the guy you see on the street with the 3 solo cups with the ball under one of them, and he's like, which one is it really under? Which one is it really under? They're just moving it around constantly. That's what it was, with huge sums of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were playing all kinds of crazy games. It came back to bite them on the...
Yeah, it did. It really blew up in their face.
It kind of did. So Roberto Calvi created a bank subsidiary in the Bahamas and set up a bunch of anonymous holding companies under that, which is where the Vatican's money was going to go, of course. Marcinkus became the board of the Bahamas subsidiary of the Banco Ambrosiano. Things went along pretty well for a while. Roberto Calvi brought in some good profits for the church. Everybody was happy. But then Michele Sindona, you remember him?
No.
He was their previous banker.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Short little memory. Sorry.
Yeah. He decided to stir up a little trouble. Apparently, he was feeling kind of upset about being cut out of the Vatican's business.
Fair.
Well, he probably lost a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. He demanded $10 million from Calvi, and Calvi basically said no. told him to go pound sand. And so he got his revenge. On November 13th, 1977, posters were plastered on buildings all around the Banco Ambrosiano, which included numbers of secret Swiss accounts that had been used for the deal, whereby the Vatican netted that extra stock that put them basically in control of Banco Ambrosiano. And there was a lot of other stuff on these posters also. He also sent a letter to the Bank of Italy with details of these transactions. And the Bank of Italy, by the way, was not a private bank. It was Italy's central bank, kind of like our Federal Reserve, sort of in a way.
I was going to say, what's our equivalent? That makes sense.
Yeah. They started an investigation into this.
Which is not a good thing when you're a bank.
Not a good thing when you're a bank, no. A guy named Mario Sarcinelli of the Bank of Italy was the guy who was put in charge of looking into Banco Ambrosiano's finances. One day, the police arrived at the bank's headquarters and arrested him.
Oh.
And he was taken away and locked up in prison for 10 days. And then at which point he was released on the condition that he leave his job at the Bank of Italy. And that pretty much was it for the investigation of Banco Ambrosiano.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
So the major central bank gets the police involved. They arrest him, they put him in jail for 10 days, find out who knows what, if anything, and then just says, quit your job, and it's all good.
Yeah, quit your job, and we'll let you go. Yeah.
Something smells fishy in that.
I was going to say, that's conspiracy theory fodder.
Yeah.
Up the wazoo.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you look at this whole mystery, it's obvious that, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff like this going on. There's another one I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. Actually, I'll talk about it now. Speaking of Sindona, well, some of his banks had failed and they were being liquidated, and a guy who was placed in charge of liquidating them was named Mario Ambrosoli, and he found evidence in Sindona's records that documented a possibly illegal transfer of $6.5 million to, quote, an American bishop and a Milanese banker. Yeah, and that would be, guess who? Paul Marcinkus from the Vatican and Roberto Calvi, right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and the $6.5 million was part of the deal that netted the Vatican that extra chunk of Banco Ambrosiano's stock. Word leaked out to the press, and Mario Ambrosoli's investigation didn't go very far because he was shot dead in front of his house not long after that point. So yeah, another body.
Wasn't he and also a police investigator or a reporter? I can't remember which one, or another. So he and somebody else both got shot at the same time, and turned out they were contracted. Isn't that right?
I'm not sure.
Does this sound familiar to you?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I am pretty sure that I remember that one of the things that is it Sindona? Is that how you say it?
Sindona.
I think that, and I might be getting this wrong, but I think one of the things that got him put away was contracting those two killings. Because he was trying to hide what was going on.
Could very well be, yeah. But apparently it worked, although eventually the law caught up with Sindona.
Yeah, he got, the U.S. feds busted him, didn't they?
Yeah, he got in trouble in America and wound up going to prison in America for a while. Sindona, he did, as you say, go to prison in the U.S., and he was later extradited to Italy, where he did a little time in prison. And in 1986, he was in prison in Rome, and he drank some coffee that turned out to have some cyanide in it.
Oops.
Yeah, I know.
Whoopsies.
Never leave the creamer out too long. See what happens?
I know. Yet another dead body. The death was ruled a suicide.
That seems wrong.
Yeah,
that seems suspicious.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if they can get barbiturates in prison, why can't they get cyanide?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. So, let's see. I don't think we're going to have another dead body for a little bit here. So, yeah, if you want to take a break and go to the bathroom, feel free.
Now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time.
The pause button is not a thing.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more we can talk about all the financial dealings.
But maybe let's not.
Yeah, let's not. It's really confusing. It would take a long time. I think Byzantine would be describing this lightly.
No, I kind of want to go into it.
Yeah,
I really dig these things.
No.
Okay, 3 hours later.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And it's not even about the unsolved part of this mystery.
Yeah.
No, it's just all the
fact.
crazy inside deals and loopholes and weirdness.
And of course, there's a lot of it we don't know. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Besides the missing funds, there have also been claims that Calvi was laundering funds for the mafia, and perhaps even running investments for them. There are also theories out there about a secret Masonic lodge called Propaganda Due. Is that Due in Italian?
Yeah, yep.
It's basically Propaganda 2. Propaganda Due, also known as P2. He did have dealings with P2, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. There have been claims that the founder or the leader of Propaganda 2 was part of the conspiracy to murder Calvi. Don't know about the evidence for that. There's also some evidence that Calvi was involved in funneling money from the Vatican to Solidarity in Poland, believe it or not.
Solidarity was a political movement? Or?
They were a labor union.
Oh, that's right. It was a union.
A labor union that became a political movement.
The first labor union that wasn't controlled by a communist government.
Yeah, and they managed to actually overturn.
Because they had, I think, in their first year, they went from nobody to 10 million members or something insanely
like
huge. From start date to just before their anniversary date.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite an amazing story, but that's not a mystery, so we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So okay, now that we've talked all about his financial dealings with the Vatican, and
one would
elsewhere,
assume that he had a life insurance policy, right?
He did. That's a quite good guess. He had a policy worth about $10 million US.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. But of course, the insurance company, because it
was a suicide?
It was a suicide. They wouldn't pay. And then it was later ruled maybe a suicide. They still wouldn't pay because, hey, we don't know, huh? And so...
they probably claimed, like, having a life is a pre-existing condition.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Being alive is a pre-existing condition, so when you die, like, there's nothing we could do about it. You were going to die anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
So we'll just have to keep them premiums. But Calvi's wife and his son, Carlo, hired a private detective agency called Kroll Associates to investigate the case. And actually, there was a guy named Jeffrey Katz who headed the investigation, and he wrote an interesting article about it in the Telegraph of London some years, in the early 2000s. I don't know if you saw that article or not.
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah, good article, but well worth reading. They decided that they were going through all kinds of records and everything, but they decided also to recreate the suicide. So they tracked down the contracting company that originally put up the scaffolding and did the work on the bridge, and they still had the scaffolding, the very same scaffolding as before.
You don't just throw that stuff away.
Oh,
it lasts forever.
It's expensive, yeah. They graciously loaned it to Jeffrey Katz and his team, and they set it up underneath the bridge, just like it had been set up in 1982. And this, by the way, was in 1991 when they hired this, when they finally did the recreation.
Sure.
Calvi's shoes were custom made, and he had them made several pairs at a time, of course.
As you would.
Yeah, as you would. So his wife still had a few extra pairs of these exact same shoes laying around, so she gave them to Katz. They hired a stuntman who was about his height and size and weight.
Calvi's, not Katz.
Yeah. He was about his height and his weight. He put on a suit and tie and put on Calvi's shoes and climbed out over the scaffolding just like Calvi would have done.
Did they stuff a bunch of masonry in
into his pants?
And
you know, I don't know about that.
For safety reasons, probably not.
Yeah.
It seems like it's important, though.
Well, the way it would be kind of important. I mean, it might. He didn't mention what they did there. They might have added some extra weight. I mean, there's ways that without doing something as cumbersome as
weight vest
bricks.
or something.
Yeah, exactly. There's other ways to add weight besides that, or you can just pick a stuntman who weighs a bit more. Anyway, after this guy went out there, and he actually walked out all kinds of different pathways on the scaffolding, because Calvi obviously could have taken different pathways. Sure. And then they took the shoes and they immersed him in water for a while, whatever. So if he went into the water at almost 2 a.m., and then he was found at 7:30 a.m., but then, of course, it took a while for the London River Police to get there and cut the body down. So
probably 8 hours-ish?
Probably a good 8 hours, yeah. A good 8 hours in the water. And so they immersed the shoes in water for a similar period of time, then removed them, dried them out, and then put them under a microscope, and what they found is specks of rust and paint from the scaffolding.
Okay, but I guess here's my next question. Was it moving water that they immersed it in, or was it standing water? Yeah. Because if it were standing water, it would make more sense that the flecks would be left on, but if it was running water, rushing past, I would think it would be less likely. Question?
I'm not sure how swiftly the Thames moves.
But even a little moving friction.
Yeah, it does move. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if they immersed it in any sort of flow. Probably just dead water. But something I forgot to mention is that after they dried the shoes off, they took a wire brush to the soles and actually brushed them off pretty good.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, and I'm saying all this staunchly believing that he didn't kill himself anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing that we could ask is, and it doesn't matter because I also don't believe that he did it. Okay, well, if the stuntman is taking different paths, was he putting on a different pair of shoes every time? Because the same pair of shoes walking a path 5 times are going to show much more than a pair of shoes that only does it once.
Yeah, that's true enough. But
there's going to be other. It's not like what's his name?
Calvi.
Thank you. Put on a brand new pair of shoes to go kill himself.
No, but what I mean is that if the stuntman takes Route 1, sees how that works.
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying that there would have been other stuff on there too.
And there would have been rocks and dirt and asphalt and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if when they did this, if they had them go out one way and then they immersed the shoes and then they dried them out and looked at them, and then they had them go out another way. That would have taken forever to do that. But yeah,
even the fact that they found any, even after a wire brushing, that's pretty good evidence.
They found rust and paint flecks, and of course the police still had the original shoes in their possession, and they had a look at those, and they found nothing. They found no rust, no paint. Yeah.
So how did he get there then?
So how did he get onto the scaffolding?
Well, how did he get to where he died?
How did he get to where he died?
Yes. Over the Thames. If he didn't go over the scaffolding in the bridge, then...
Well, the popular thinking is that he was brought there by a boat.
Right, because the tide was out.
The tide was kind of
when they found him.
Oh, no, the tide was not quite... The tide was not high tide when he went in. The tide was pretty close to low when they found him. Yeah. So...
But it was much higher when he would have gone in.
Yeah, it was higher when he would have gone in, yes.
So it could have been...
Yeah,
it'd be pretty easy to
bring him in,
throw a rope over a piece of scaffolding.
Yeah, from the boat. Yeah.
Huh.
So he was probably brought to that point on a boat. He was probably already dead. Strangled him on the boat, or maybe before he even got on the boat.
Did either of you guys watch Deadwood?
Yeah.
Do you remember the pilot episode where he throws a rope over the walkway and the guy's just standing there and he's hoisting him up, but then throws his own body weight on him and pulls him down to do the deed that way?
Oh,
I could almost see that, let the current drag the boat and just hold him in place. That's going to cause the constriction that you need to cut off an airway.
But it's not so sharp that it's gonna break his neck?
Correct.
Okay.
If the Thames is at high, it's still a slow moving river, so you're just pulling against it. I mean, if you've ever been in a little boat and just hung onto a tree branch and it's a gently moving river, you're like, well, this actually is kind of pulling me a lot harder than I would have expected. I could see that if all that was focused on with a rope.
Yeah.
I mean, this is conjecture, I know, but...
Yeah, I know. So anyway, but that's what everybody thinks it was the whole thing about he was either strangled on the spot or somewhere else. Nobody really knows. I guess we never will. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Propaganda 2 and how they got involved with this whole thing. The guy in charge of that was Licio Gelli, and it's been claimed that P2 is kind of a state within a state. It was a Masonic lodge that had 1,000 members, or nearly 1,000 members, who were all very high-powered people in Italian society. And so obviously it was the thing to belong to. I'm kind of suspecting that Gelli was actually just a huge fraud. And
how so?
Well,
because I read the stuff about him, so I'm trying to see what it is that's leading you to think that.
Well, the Italian Parliament actually set up a commission to investigate P2, and they looked at a lot of Gelli's records and stuff, and he had records of, like I said, nearly 1,000 people who were members of Parliament, magistrates, generals in the service, the heads of intelligence services,
all
regular leading businessmen, all kinds of people, high-powered people. And it was this commission that called P2 a state within a state, at least based on Gelli's files. But the thing about it is a lot of the people that were named in the files denied being members of P2. P2 didn't act like an ordinary Masonic lodge. That is, they didn't have meetings so all the members could get to know each other. In fact, most of the members had no idea who any of the other members were. and only Galeno knew that. So they really weren't this sort of secret society, apparently. And so it's really hard to say if it really was real or if it was just a con game. But
well, and he had some weird things going on. And you saw some of the the stuff he wrote about wanting to change the way the government was run and throw over everybody that was in power. And I mean, he really, I would almost say, it bordered a bit on megalomania.
I would say, yeah. But the